Hello everyone, my name is Ajay, and in this section 09B we are going to look at the lab which is related to network security group and application security group. This is going to be the network topology where I'm going to have the VM1 and VM2. Both are going to be the Linux instances. And as we discussed earlier, these NSG groups basically you can define either on the subnet layer or you can directly define on your resources. So we are going to test the connectivity from public internet, and then you are going to test the connectivity between these VM1 to VM2 and vice versa. So I'm going to create the Linux machines or virtual machines basically here on the Azure. My first machine is going to be NSG Linux 01, and I'm going to define the password manually. These are going to be the Ubuntu instances. And it is going to be part of a resource group NSG what we created earlier, which belongs to Central India. While creating the resources, basically the virtual machines, it is going to ask, since this is are going to be accessible from internet. So the first place, if you don't have the private connectivity, definitely you are going to access these machines, what you create from internet. So it is going to ask what kind of public inbound ports you want to allow. You have an option to choose none, or you have an option to choose selected port. Since these are the Linux machines and I wanted to test the SSH connectivity, so I'm going to allow SSH access here. And to keep in mind, I'm going to create two machines, Linux 01 and 02. Both virtual resources and virtual machines are ready. So I have NSG Linux 1 and Linux 2 running. Let's inspect the security groups, what comes along with. So I'm into NSG Linux 02 instance, go to the networking section, and from networking section, this is the network interface attached, and we can see there is network security group also attached. So since we allowed only port 22 from internet, that is what we see. So these three are going to be the default one, and top of that we added this port to access this machine from internet. And this is the security group name NSG Linux 02-NSG. It is automatically created. So you have option whether you initially create the NSG group which you can attach to virtual machines. If you're not going to attach and if you're going to use the GUI options to allow a couple of ports, it is going to automatically create an NSG group based on the host name what you define. That is what we see. So this is going to be network security group for machine 2, and similarly I'm going to see a different security group for machine 01. This is going to be the public IP address. This is going to be the private IP address. Similarly, if you go to the outbound port rules, these are going to be the default one. Now let's inspect NSG VNet. This is the subnet what we created. This subnet having the range 10.1.0.0/24 doesn't have the IPv6. I have total available IP address 249, and look at this. This is a field which we wanted to see. I have no security group attached. As of now, there is no security group attached on the subnet layer, but we see there are one security group attached to each VM what we created. Both the VMs, NSG Linux 01 and 02, they are part of the same subnet. Hence, we are going to see the IP assignment coming from the same range. So subnet having a 10.1.0.0/24, hence we see the IP address, which is going to be the first IP address assignment to start from 10.1.0.4, that is assigned to my Linux 01, and 10.1.0.5 that is assigned to Linux 02 instance. Let's now test the SSH connectivity. So I'm logging to the machine 01, and from here, if I do a SSH to 0.5, that is going to be the Linux 02. I see the SSH is successful and I can get into the machine 02 from here. So it means within the subnet, there is no restrictions. Even within the VNet, there is no restriction. All the machines, they can talk to each other using the default NSG rules comes with the default NSG group. Now, if we see, this is the login, what we see from the public IP address. So I'm able to access these machines directly from the internet, and this is my internet IP address. Once I'm logged in from 01, what do we see? It's going to be the private IP address, since these machines are going to talk to each other using the private IP address assigned to the NIC. By default, all the access is allowed, since this is allowed as part of the outbound port rule. So I'm going to block this access, and let's see how do we block it. So this is going to be the group which is assigned to NSG Linux 01-NSG. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to choose a source. Source is going to be the self IP address of 01, which is going to be 10.1.0.4. Port range, any. Destination IP address is going to be the IP address for machine 02, which is going to be 0.5. Service is going to be the SSH, and this time I want to block this. The priority for this rule is going to be the 100. You can, if you want, you can put some sort of the description here as well and add this rule. Let's verify the outbound rule. So we denied from 04 to 05, and that denial is happening only on port 22. So the rule got added here. Let's verify the connectivity now. So from machine 01, if I ping 0.5, that is IP address for second machine, I'm able to ping it successfully. But when I do the SSH, it doesn't work now. Reason behind, we have a denial rule in place. Let's test it reverse way. So I'm going to do the SSH from 05 to 04, and this time what do we see? This works. It means the only denial rule what we put in place from 04 to 05, that works as expected. Let's install Apache on these two VMs. So I want to test the web connectivity from internet. So this is going to be the command apt install Apache 2, and you just need to press yes to continue, and the web services will be running on these machines. Now, web services are running on these two machines. In the production environment, you might have 100 of these similar VMs running. So instead of adding the NSG rule based on the IP address, that is going to be very, very tedious task. So there is another option which is called the application security groups. So you can put your applications in a particular group, and based on the group, you can allow or deny those rules. So you don't need to add those IP addresses one by one. Instead of that, you just need to take care of the group. So let's see how do we create a group. So go to the Linux machine 01, go to the networking, and here go to the application security groups. And what do we see? A option configure the application security group. So if you click here, and it is coming ASG hyphen test. This is the application security group I created when I was explaining you on the previous video. So I'm going to use this, and this is nothing but a kind of the tag. So you choose it, and once you choose it, you just need to save it. So this machine is going to be the part of this ASG underscore test. So on my screen, you can see on machine 02 and 01, I have attached or created a tag which is called ASG test, and now these two machines, they are part of application security group which is called ASG underscore test. Now, before doing or applying the rule, let's test the connectivity. So we have the web services running on these machines, and this is going to be the public IP address. If I access this IP address from internet, what do I see? It doesn't work. It's not reachable, and it's not reachable. I will tell you the reason going forward. If you recall it, we had created a NSG group, which was NSG-test. This time I'm going to attach it to my subnet. So under the subnet, go to the edit, and this here's a list of the NSG groups going to pop up. So I'm going to choose the default one, and then you save it. Part of this NSG-test, you get these rules by default. So I'm going to add one more rule, which is going to allow only HTTP services. So source is going to be any, since the traffic will be coming from the internet. And this time I'm choosing a destination, and my destination is going to be the application security group, and my application security group is ASG test, which covers two VMs where I'm running the web services. My services are going to be only HTTP, and this time I'm going to allow this traffic with a priority 100. You can put the description if you want, else you can add this rule. So as of now, I have a NSG group which is applied to subnet layer. Then I have one NSG group which is applied to one VM, second NSG group is applied to the second VM. So these are two VMs, and I'm going to have the public IP as you can see here on my screen. So since I have allowed on the subnet layer, which is a group NSG_test, let's test the connectivity. Even though if I test the connectivity now, it doesn't work. Let's find out the reason why it doesn't work. Now, if you go to the Linux machine 01 under the networking section, go to the inbound rule. Now you see there are two type of rules associated. One is going to be NSG_test that is applied on subnet layer, where I see my port 80 is allowed and my destination is going to be application security group. So this port 80 traffic is being passed from here. However, it's getting blocked because I have not allowed HTTP services here. To make it work, I need to allow port 80 on the NSG group, which is applied to virtual machines. And the moment you allow this traffic here, port 80, port 80 is already allowed here, it should work. Now let's test the connectivity. So if I put the IP address in the browser, I see this is the default page coming up. However, if I go for the second VM, it still doesn't work. So let's find out the reason. So if I go to the machine 02, which is having the IP address ending with .70, it doesn't work. If you look at the statements for NSG rules, this is the default rule which is applied on the subnet layer. It is allowing port 80. So the traffic which is coming from internet, it must pass here. However, if I look at these rules, which is coming from the security group, which is applied to this VM, it doesn't have port 80. If you remember, while configuring or creating these virtual machines, I was allowing the port 22 from the GUI, which was creating two separate instances of NSG groups. So earlier we modified the NSG group for 01 machine, and this machine we have never touched. And that is the reason the second VM doesn't work. We do not need to create separate NSG groups for each machine. So what we can do, we can create one, and that is going to be the reusable. You can apply it to any VM what you want. So since we created two NSG groups, you have the option to change it as well. So if I go to the interface, network interface, where I see the NSG group, and that is for machine 02. You can click on the network security groups, and when you click on the network security groups, you see the option. This is the current applied group, and here is the list if you want to change it. So I'm going to change it from 02 to 01 because 01 was already modified to make the web services work. And then you can hit the save button here. And the moment you update the security groups, now we see on the both the VMs, there's a common security group applied, which allows port 80, this web server immediately spawn responding from the internet. Thank you for the watching, and I will see you in the next video.